might say, well, it's not worth pursuing that group. But I feel a core of international students is important to any school because it adds a cultural in a global sense that many kids don't have from coming from the United States. So it's a mixed blessing. They may cost you a lot. On the other hand, they can add a lot to the climate. This is an interesting statistic I found, that only a 410 of the fastest growing jobs really require a college education. And if you want to look at the kinds of jobs, these are the ones that don't require a college education. So there is a possibility that you're going to see more trade school, more technician kind of education for people who might have considered a 4-year school. Now, it's hard to predict because it depends on the family background and so on and so forth. But there's some pretty good looking jobs up there. I'm planning on taking one of them. Now, all that being said, the reality is, the reality is, there is no reality, sorry. I guess we knew that. But most of the high-paying jobs will require a higher thing. What I worry about is the frustration of the public towards traditional higher education because of lack of technology in the classroom to some extent, lack of change in how it does business. It's the same business was done in 1900 in many people's minds. And so I see more resistance to our kind of schools just because they want to speed up the process. They want the amenities, but they don't want all the amenities, and so on and so forth. Another interesting piece is working off campus. And I think this is a loss of most colleges. You notice that 26% of this private school, and these are just kids working off campus, not on campus, which adds another 25%, maybe more. The problem is with working off campus and the way higher education has dealt with them is we've now created 3 silos. We have the academic silo, we have the student life silo, now we have a work silo. And there's very little done to break down those silos so they're all an important piece of the puzzle. For instance, I think the first college that ever gives college credit, like just one, for a part-time job that a student has reflected on, meaning they wrote a paper, they took a journal, did something, will be way ahead of the game because kids are going to work, they have to work. We don't value it. We mostly complain that they have to leave class so fast and so on and so forth. When indeed, these sort of people ought to be thinking about whatever job they have as a learning experience and not treat it like it is just an inconvenience for the college. This is one that I think all kinds of colleges have been had their head in the sand to some extent. By 2020, 15% of the students will be educated at for-profits, and only 7% are at this point. But the more interesting thing is the University of Phoenix, with its 455,000 students, by the way, went to used to have a 23-year age start. They moved it back to 18 years old. Now 20% of the students at the University of Phoenix are 18 to 22, which is the cohort that we're after. And we say, oh, it's a different experience. It's certainly a different experience. But if we don't show it as a different experience and show the value of it, it's a bigger problem. The other issue with the for-profits is the the same place you guys are, they are the ones who are recruiting students of color and first generation, which used to be bread and butter of at least the first generation of schools like yours. And I think that's a particular problem because the growing numbers of Hispanics and African American obviously means you're going to have some to maintain your size. And the for-profits have done a good job. There's a new university being started which is only for African Americans, and it's a for-profit, and a lot of it's online and so on. So people are moving in that direction. Now the thing that catches my attention, and we've done some work with DeVry University and a few others which are for-profit, and it's the fact that it's that roughly 30% of their operating budget goes into marketing. Now most schools like yours, if it's 3%, I'd be amazed. And I'm not arguing that you should throw more money into marketing, but we can't also risk the institutions by not putting enough into it and being competitive. Because those things are machines. I mean, they really know how to market. And they just budget for it. It's just that's that simple. The downside of the for-profits is kids come out with incredible debt. The average debt is almost $50,000, and imagine your debt here is about 25, right? The for-profits are not necessarily doing anybody great favors, but they sure know how to get students, and we can't lose sight of that. The growth in the master's degrees, as you can see, it's been growing fairly significantly we'll go up about 28%. Now, nearly twice as many master's degrees were awarded in 2008 than in 1980. So, obviously a growth market. You're all in it to some extent, I'm assuming. Everybody has graduate programs, which is a good idea. The interesting thing is looking at two kinds of masters in management that have grown. One is the full-time one-year MBA, which frankly was what I went through in the early 70s. It was a one-year program, MBA. And then we got all fancy in that. It got up to 18 months and then 2 years and so on and so forth. Going back to 1 year for it seems to be growth. The other one is the flexible MBA, which includes hybrids, it includes doing some online, some on seats, and so on and so forth. And what this really shows you, though, is the beginning of what we're talking about overall, which is the whole idea of flexibility and convenience. The old joke about there's three things for the adult market that the adult market looks for: convenience, convenience, convenience. And that's what this is all about. Whatever fits the schedule and fits the person is what they're looking for. The new trend is the specialty master's degrees. And these are ones like new media, interactive media. One's called interactive media and entrepreneurship. Educational leadership, which is really to train people to take over charter schools and struggling schools. An MBA with zero in on problems. The whole point is how do you figure out what the problem is of the thing and fix it. And those are going to be good. And they also have this little advantage. They can make a lot of money. Where traditional master's degrees in a discipline is not that easy. In these fields, it's fairly easy.